Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BBC Radio 5 Live. Is everybody eating?
Yeah, boy!
Good. Everybody's sober.
We call that simply lovely.
Close enough. What I'm about to propose to you is both highly lucrative and highly dangerous. This is the Grand F1 Master Plan. Our target? Las Vegas. Here's the crew we have in mind. Mad Max is in. He's mellowed in recent years and is the best in the business.
Max Verstappen, he crosses the line in second, but he becomes a three-time F1 world champion.
Perez is his wingman. Everyone knows him as Checo.
The way Max pushed me throughout the race was really hard, but we managed to keep him under control.
Then there's Crazy Carlos. He's not actually crazy. He's a smooth operator.
It's Carlos Sainz and Ferrari who achieve the unthinkable and win the Singapore Grand Prix and makes it the first non-Red Bull win since Brazil 2022.
My first smooth operation in Ferrari. Smooth operator.
Fernando brings the experienced Charles, the swagger, and Oscar, the youth.
We need to talk about Oscar Piastri as he rounds the final corner. Piastri and the McLaren will seal the deal in the sprint.
Then we have the British contingent. Gorgeous George.
Come on, team! And it's come on!
Lando and Lewis.
And Hamilton comes over the line and goes quickest. Pole position by 0.003 of a second. What a lap.
The aim? Don't get caught. Now let Palmer, Powell, and Tennant guide you through the rest. So, who's in?
Wow, what an introduction. I think that's probably the first and only time I'll be introduced by a George Clooney, I'll say that. So it is Rosanna Tennant, joined by former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer and racing driver Alice Powell, alongside the BBC's chief F1 writer Andrew Benson. And we are in Las Vegas. It needs no introduction, and we are moments away from the opening ceremony for this weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix. And it's been quite some time in the making, this race. As the music starts to blare and the intro tape starts to roll, there is smoke in the air. The incredible city of Las Vegas has been lit up. I can see hotels everywhere. We've got Caesar's Palace, we've got the Bellagio. I've got drones right ahead of me, I think, flashing red. And I have to say, Jolyon, Alice and Andrew are all looking at what is going on as the music starts to blare. We've waited a while for this. There's a lot of hype. Jolyon, how excited are you to be here in Las Vegas? Your first time here, right?
It is. It's pretty surreal, I'll be honest. Obviously the F1 race coming to Vegas is such a showpiece event, and it's been announced now for a year and a half, but finally we're here, and certainly so far they're putting on quite the show.
They really are. Smoke is being emitted out of little canisters down in the pit lane, lights being shone up into the air. We've got a helicopter flying overhead. As I look across from where we are in the pit building to the grandstand on the start-finish straight, there's lots of lights flashing, a lot of fans already here. The music is starting. Alice Powell, I mean, this is an incredible way to kick off a race weekend. We don't see this very much.
No, I mean, the drivers have said, Max especially, is like, we're just here for a show. But obviously they're here to race and win as well. But certainly at the moment, it's a show. The drones are in full swing. Big drones saying Las Vegas. That's pretty cool. But obviously as the drivers, this will be probably a little bit for them like, oh really, we've got to go out there, wave. They're just going to die to get out on track tomorrow.
And of course, a brand new track for them to get their teeth into. Andrew Benson, have you had a little look around to see what the challenges might be? I mean, once all this pomp and ceremony's out of the way, it's back to business, or is it just a show, like Alice says?
Well, it's a good question. I think if you were to put a ratio on how much this is a sporting event as opposed to an entertainment show, I don't think the percentage of sporting event was very high, or at least it doesn't feel that way at the moment. It feels like a license to print money for Formula One in the Las Vegas casinos. There's some obscene amounts of money being spent here. One of the corporate packages here is $10,000 per person as a starting price.
Do you know this because you've purchased one, Andrew Benson?
If only.
Is that where you're going to be writing your articles from this weekend? Not the commentary box, that is a little on the small side.
But I think
ludicrous cash.
Well, there's even bigger numbers than that. You can get a package from one of the casinos for $1 million.
What are you eating for $1 million?
It's crazy, but as Daniel Ricciardo was saying just a few minutes ago, ultimately, when the cars head off down the strip on lap 1 of this Grand Prix, it is going to be an awesome spectacle. And a spectacle it will be, and there will be a race, but the race isn't really what this is all about.
No. And I tell you what, as the smoke is sort of circling around us in the pit building, there's also been a bit of rain. We were all expecting and told to pack our winter woolies because it was going to be about 3 or 5 degrees in the middle of the night here. It's a little bit milder, but I didn't see rain on the forecast, so that could be an interesting one. It's not damping the spirits here, is it, Julian?
We're not bringing the rain jeopardy here.
I'm just saying, it's falling.
Rosanna, there's enough jeopardy this weekend without talking about the rain at the start of this. I think it's going to be I'm excited about the race, honestly. I've never been to Vegas. This is actually pretty epic. I am stunned by the place. It's obviously the huge razzmatazz, but having never been here and now arriving, and obviously with Formula One in full flow in the city as well, it's really, really cool. But I'm also just genuinely excited to see the cars on the track. The track looks pretty nuts. It is going to be chilly compared to everywhere else we race in Formula One in context. And it's going to be low grip, it's going to be really, really high speed, low downforce. It's going to be tough to keep it out of the walls around the most iconic streets maybe in the world. This is really cool.
You're saying it's cool. Is it what you expected, Las Vegas? Because it's very different, isn't it? I don't know if it's what I was expecting. I've never been here. You've never been here, Alice, either. Andrew, have you been here?
I have been here.
Of course he has. But we won't ask you about that.
I was with my wife and 3-year-old daughter, so it wasn't exactly a party weekend.
But you hear all about Las Vegas, and you sort of wonder why Las Vegas needs F1 in a way, because it's so on the map already as a tourist destination. But when you've seen it on, images here and there, is it what you thought it would be, Julian?
Kind of, but I'm more in awe than I thought I would be at the place. It's crazy. I feel like standing here is quite a coup for Formula One to be here, personally. When the strip is literally shut for Formula One, I feel like Formula One's got a great deal to be here. It's an iconic place.
So to put that into context, Formula One's been trying to get a race on the strip for 40 years. Bernie Ecclestone was trying to do it when there was a Caesars Palace Grand Prix in the early 80s. He couldn't manage it. I remember speaking to a guy called Tommy Baker in the 90s for a few years, trying to work with Bernie Ecclestone to put a race together on the strip then. It didn't happen because the casinos blocked it. But they've found a way now to make it happen. That way, incidentally, is to show that the casinos can make an awful lot of money out of it. Regardless, they've made it happen.
And in terms of the casinos not buying into it before, now we've got the problem that perhaps local residents aren't loving the fact that Formula One's turned up on its doorstep. Do you think that's going to pose a problem for years to come for them?
Well, I don't think it will, because the Las Vegas authorities have okayed it for the next 10 years. They've freed up the date. So, look, let's be realistic about it. If you put on an event of the size of a Grand Prix in the middle of a city of the size of Las Vegas, not everyone's going to be happy, are they? It's inevitable.
It's just part of hosting big events. Local residents sometimes aren't happy when a big event comes into town. The London Marathon, it shut so many roads for a day, granted, not 4, but that's what happens. Think about the residents in Singapore. They have a street race there already. Some of them won't be F1 fans. There's not a huge natural base of probably F1 fans in Singapore, but it's a big event and it works. Silverstone Village. People complain about the noise at Silverstone Village. Okay, there's a few more people here than there, but this is what you get in Vegas. It's an entertainment venue, and this is going to be a huge show.
Of course, if you live in Vegas, you've got to expect some pomp and ceremony here or there, haven't you?
You're not here for a quiet weekend in the countryside.
I was going to say, not a quiet weekend in the countryside.
That's why I came.
Yeah, you were hoping, weren't you, for that?
I want to go to Silverstone Village.
Yeah, that's where I want to go.
But
Toaster
not
is
in
calling
mid-July.
I have to tell you, there are more drones. They're now purple. They were red, still circling around the start-finish straight. And as I look across, I think the lights are a little bit deceiving. It looks like the grandstand is heaving and full, but actually the seats are doing the flashing on their own. It's not lights held by fans.
It's not exactly packed out, is it, today?
Are we expecting a sellout crowd, though?
They say they're expecting it, but we'll have to wait and see whether they actually get it.
You can still purchase a ticket. Yeah. That's what I can tell you right now. There's one free ticket somewhere.
and it's not the £10,000 package one that Andrew's got his eye on. Also, looking up and down the grid, we've got, I think, trucks where the drivers are going to come out and be introduced. We've seen this before, haven't we, in Miami, for example, and Austin as well, really hyping up the entrance of the drivers on race day. But of course, this is an opening ceremony. We don't often have an opening ceremony of sorts. I think in rally we have that quite a lot, where we see the drivers come out at the beginning of a rally weekend. But this is quite new. How does this compare to a Miami and an Austin, do you think, already?
Well, the very fact that there's an opening ceremony, as you say, Rosanna, it doesn't happen at any other Grand Prix, and that tells you everything about what Formula One wants to make this race be. I nearly said event, because it is really an event with a race in it, rather than a race with some events around it.
And F1 is booming in America. We have now, this is the third race of the year in the States. They are all a little bit different. As you said, Miami, the big driver interest. We've had it in Austin before. It kind of works for this market, and the market's doing very well. So I think I say we embrace it.
I'm going to put a bit of a downer on things. I just worry with hype that things cannot be lived up to.
Come on.
I'm just putting it out there. When we all get on the hype train, sometimes it doesn't take us to the destination we thought it would, Alice.
Yeah, but I think the track's very different to a lot of the street circuits. It's such long straights. Some of the straights are incredibly long, and there's not a lot of data from this track. Okay, you use simulators, etc., but it's still there. No one's actually driven around here. People were driving down here. The roads were open earlier when we came to the track. So the track evolution is going to be massive, and I think it will be exciting.
In terms of the shape of the track, when you look at it, you started to laugh, because I know what do you see when you look at the track map?
Looks like an upside down producer paddy.
An upside down producer paddy?
Yeah.
People have said it looks like an upside down pig. That's what I've heard.
But as a racing driver, does it make you go ooh and ah, Alice and Jolyon?
I mean, yeah, I would have said I'd like to race around here. There doesn't seem to be any corners that, it's definitely not a Singapore. But I think
it's also not Suzuka, so
yeah, it's also not some of those iconic circuits. But at the same time, I used to like going to new circuits that I'd never been to before, or other people hadn't been to before. So
the fact it's new is fun. I look at the track map and I don't think, wow, this is going to be amazing. But when you put it in the context of where we are, the low downforce nature on what could be quite a slippery, cold street circuit, it could be amazing. I don't think the drivers will love driving around here, but I think we may love watching them drive around here.
In terms of creating a good race, it could be the straights are so long that there's overtaking opportunities, and that's what we want to see in Formula One at the moment. We want to see overtaking.
Do you know what we might want to see is some spinning around? You might have realised that in the background we're hearing Kylie Minogue, the Aussie singer, singing Padam Padam. This is live here in Vegas. Look at us, we're just at a concert on an F1 weekend, Andrew Benson. You're wearing a backpack, but what of it?
Well, I'm wearing a backpack because of some of the slightly contrary logistics of this weekend, which we won't get into right now, but there's some very unhappy members of the written media at the moment, I can tell you.
Come on then, tell me what about these logistics while we just groove to Kylie Minogue.
Well, let's put it this way, they've been bragging about this being the largest pit building on the Formula 1 calendar. They spent £500 million building it, but they've not found room for a media centre. And the reason for that is they've tried to monetise every square inch of this building. It's all corporate entertainment facilities and a few Formula 1 offices.
So they don't want the media here because you're not paying,
because
really,
we're not paying money, exactly. And not only that, but we're costing them money.
And yet, you're writing the articles about it.
Exactly. So it's a bit of a trade-off this weekend for everybody, I think.
Annoy Andrew Benson at your peril.
I can't wait to see what headline you go for, Andrew.
It's not me they have to worry about, I don't think.
No, absolutely. You mentioned the money there that's been spent. This is Formula One purchasing land in Las Vegas. That is huge. Do we see that very often on other tracks?
No, it's unprecedented. It's a groundbreaking event on a number of different levels, and that's one of them. But it just goes to show how much money they think they're going to be able to make out of this race long term. And that's not just from on the ground in terms of corporate dollars, and there will be millions and millions of corporate dollars spent here, but also on the effect it can have on Formula One within what is the world's biggest marketplace, effectively.
Well, we are going to continue listening to a little bit of music. In the meantime, let's hear what the drivers have been saying about arriving in Las Vegas and what they're expecting from this very, very different and unique weekend.
Pretty surreal. Like, I'm pinching myself. We're racing in Vegas on the strip. Like, it's crazy. It's awesome to be a part of it. And normally when I'm here, I've been here many times. Normally I have a drink in my hand most hours of the day. So it already feels very different because I'm not. And I'm sober, and I will be sober the whole week. And so it already feels like I'm here for business. And I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that.
I love it. I've been here in the past. I came here once racing actually in karting 10 years ago or something like this. Then I came back to party, which was very different than for this weekend. And now I come back to race. But it's interesting to see how much the city has changed since the last time I came here to party to now coming to race, and see that the whole city now is around Formula One, which is great.
And you're excited to drive down the strip at full tilt?
I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great event. Lots of people coming to the city for Formula One, and it's that's amazing. So I hope we'll have good racing as well.
The last time I was here, I think it was the hottest 3 days on record in Vegas. It was like 48 degrees or something. So I stayed inside a lot. That trip, I've stayed inside a lot. This trip, just trying to sleep when I can. But yeah, it's cool to be back. It's obviously changed a bit from what I remember. I'm also a lot. Life has changed a lot since I was last here, so new perspective on things. But cool to be back. Cool to be here for a race. You know, something I think a lot of people wished for, but maybe didn't think would ever be a reality. So to be back in Vegas is cool.
It's a different place. Like it's a pretty cool place to visit. Quite hectic, but I'll answer with you tomorrow when I get to feel the track. But on paper, I think like it's going to create some exciting racing, which is good.
I love the fact that you're focusing on the track rather than the casinos and all that kind of comes with Las Vegas.
That's the main thing. We're here to drive, we're here to race and perform the best we can. But obviously, I think for the spectators, for the fans who could afford to come to this race, it's going to be a nice experience.
You know, I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. You know, if that's what the fans want, then, you know, that's what F1 has to give them. Personally, I feel a little bit out of place, you know, in that situation, but it is what it is.
Did the track walk last night, 2 to 3 a.m. But no, it looks really cool. I think to be able to drive here at night is going to be special for sure. But yeah, just coming back here, used to race karting here every year. My favorite race of the year, so hopefully that continues in F1.
So that's how the Formula One drivers are feeling coming into this weekend. The first time we've raced in Las Vegas since 1982, and I think everyone's getting a little bit excited about the reception that Formula One is having. And we are in the middle of the opening ceremony. We've had a little taster of Kylie Minogue, we've had a little bit of Journey with Don't Stop Believing, and we were talking about the logistics. And Andrew Benson, it's been difficult for you to sort of get yourself around the place here in Las Vegas in terms of media centre, proximity to the paddock. But in terms of the schedule, it's also a weird one, isn't it? Because we're racing at night time. The race will get underway at 10 o'clock local time. Quali's at midnight. So we've got this weird situation where the pole sitter and the winner will be decided probably on the same day.
Exactly.
How are you finding it? I know we've only been on the ground 24 hours or so.
Well, I haven't even been here 24 hours. Well, I think I landed 24 hours ago. I mean, the honest truth, Rosanna, is we don't know yet how it's going to work. The thought when we arrived here was we'll all try and do it like Singapore, so stay on the sort of race timetable, so you end up going to bed at dawn and waking up in the middle of the afternoon. I don't know whether that's really going to be possible here, because in Singapore you can always get food in the middle of the night. In Las Vegas it doesn't seem like that's going to be that easy at the moment. Maybe as the weekend goes on it will be. But it's a time zone that basically really only works for Las Vegas and Australia and Japan. Everywhere else in the world it doesn't really work. Because ironically they've got this race because they're trying to grow Formula One in the US market. But it's 1 o'clock in the morning in New York when the race starts. And it's 6 o'clock in the morning in the UK and 7 o'clock in the morning in the rest of Europe. So it's all about trying to find a time that fits in with the Las Vegas timetable, disrupting the traffic as little as possible. Ironically, the best time possibly would have been to start the race at 4 a.m. for the rest of the world.
Andrew Benson,
if you think about
down,
it.
4 a.m. As a driver, Julian, what on earth are you going to be doing if you had to start a race at 4 o'clock? I mean, starting at 10...
Well, they're not.
No, they're not. They're starting at 10 p.m, but that's weird. I mean, we sometimes see it, don't we? Maybe in tennis matches, a very late start. It's quite strange to be preparing yourself all day long for a race at 10 o'clock at night when you've been doing qualifying at midnight the night before.
Well, you just have a late morning, you know. You don't wake up, crack
Long
a dawn,
brekkie, like a bit of that, yeah. Ex-Benedict for the win.
They'll be waking up in the early afternoon, I'd have thought, and going through their usual plan and try and stick to routine as much as possible. And trust me, when the visor's going down and they're hitting the track, they're not going to be feeling tired. So then nothing wakes you up like a Formula One car screaming around a track, wherever it is, let alone this one.
And a lot of them will have schedules that they can prepare before they come here. So they can try and adjust to the time zone in whatever country. But I think quite a few actually stayed out this kind of way anyway from Brazil. So it's not like coming from the UK and it's making that big difference. But as Benny said, it's like being on Japanese time zone anyway. So I would say, I used to get told that if you're going on quite a big offset, just try and get used to it several days before, 5-6 days before, to try and, every an hour a day, just stay up, wake up a little bit later. It's a lot easier said than done, though.
Yeah, I have to say Fernando Alonso was on our flight and he looked a lot perkier when he got off the plane than most of the rest of us did.
Well, that's because he's flying
in
up the
first
front.
class, of course. But
we're at the back in 58J, Andrew. I did not feel fresh. I'll tell you that for nothing. Another way to kill time in Vegas, of course, is to hit the machines, the slot machines, the blackjack.
I don't even know how to play any of it. So
neither do I, but Jolyon Palmer looks like a wise old fellow. You've got a few tips and tricks for us.
I know my way around the roulette wheel.
Do you?
I went last night, as it happens, went to Caesar's Palace. I thought, what do you do in Vegas for a night? Let's tick off the boxes. So I went to Caesar's Palace. Andrew went to the roulette wheel. I took a minimum stake $25. I thought this is going to burn through in about 3 seconds. Went for it, just to have a taste. If you and me, what number do you bet on?
30.
Obviously, you got to back JP 30. First number that came in, 30.
No.
Yeah, you do the math. It was a nice win. Caesar's Palace is a little darker tonight. They've got to save some electricity after I took it into the cleaners for a whole $100 or so.
Moneybags Palmer always looked like a winner, didn't he, Benson?
Absolutely.
Even back
Money
in
makes money, Rosanna.
when you have one spin and it comes in, it's going to be a good weekend.
Dinner is on you every night. Maybe.
Dinner's not on me.
Oh.
It's on Caesar's Palace.
Oh, okay.
Other casinos are available
They
in
will
Las
be
Vegas.
wincing if I walk back in.
Oh, my goodness. I can't wait to see you take on the roulette wheel once more this weekend, Jolyon. We've got some purple flashing lights now, some strobe lights going on. I can't see the drivers yet. I'm trying desperately to
We
see
had
them.
LED flags a minute ago. You missed them.
Oh, are they walking out? I think they're going to be sort of introduced, and we've got some people down on the grid who are going to be waving some flags. But actually, earlier on, we've been talking about the logistics of shutting down a city like Las Vegas. Earlier on, I had a chat with someone who's been heavily involved with getting this event to where it is now, and that's Steve Hill. He's the CEO of Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and this is what he had to say to me about the event.
The opportunity that Formula One brings to Las Vegas is something that's really unmatched. Combining the brand of Las Vegas with the brand of Formula One is really something unique, and the spectacle of this event is just going to be fantastic. It will make this week the best week ever in Las Vegas. So we may not need it, but it's certainly great to have.
That is a huge goal, big target, to say that the most amazing week in this incredible city. It looks like a spectacle. The sun has set, the lights are now on, but coming into Las Vegas, there has been some negativity in and around the event. Is that a real sort of a representation of what's going on in the city?
Well, we knew in the first year that it was going to be pretty disruptive. And, we have hundreds of thousands of people who work in all of these beautiful properties who have to get back and forth to work every day. And we have businesses here that have been disrupted. And it was a 6-month process. We had to construct the entire circuit for the first 4 months and then put up all of this for the next couple of months. And so it's been an investment. It's been difficult for these folks. We have thanked them for helping to make this happen. It is going to be in everybody's long-term interest, but this year was hard, and we understand that, and we appreciate the sacrifice that everybody's made to make it work.
And you say long-term, of course, Formula One will be coming here for several years. So are you listening to the local residents and businesses to improve things for the years to come, or is it not going to be possible to accommodate their worries and needs?
No, it will be. We won't have to build this circuit every year, so that first 4 months of work will disappear for years. We also have learned as we've gone along, we've put up, for example, temporary bridges over the circuit that allow cars and trucks to go in and out of the circuit. We have 27,000 hotel rooms inside the circuit itself. So we have all those workers, all those visitors who have to get back and forth. We're talking about making that temporary infrastructure permanent. There are a number of steps that we can take to make this better going forward and make the benefit even better, but reduce the cost significantly.
And of course, reducing costs, sustainability is a huge point at the moment, especially for Formula One as they're trying to go carbon net zero by 2030. Are you able to provide an event like that for them?
We are, and we have partnered with them on that sustainability effort in everything that we have done. So it's a goal for us in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is actually a very sustainable community, and we want to partner with F1 in the future to help them reach that goal because it's important for us too.
And of course, it's not just Formula One coming to Las Vegas. You've got lots of other big sporting properties. So where does Formula One fit in that bigger global picture of sports coming to this city?
Well, we are going through kind of a pinnacle of events in Las Vegas for about a 4-month period, and Formula One's at the top of that mountain, along with the Super Bowl that will be here in just 3 months. So we are doing both of these events really at the same time, and I think it just shows what Las Vegas can do. It shows what we can do for those leagues and those events and those partnerships in Las Vegas. We think elevate the city and elevate the sports too.
Las Vegas is already on the map in terms of people wanting to come and tick it off their bucket list. So what is Formula One going to do for Vegas in a sense? Are they bringing more people here? Is there a sort of long-term goal on what Formula One's going to actually help Vegas achieve?
Sure. I think you can put that into 2 buckets. This week, as I mentioned, will be the most successful economic week in the history of Las Vegas. This attracts, Formula One attracts a high-end clientele from around the world, and they come and spend their money here, and that is to the benefit of everybody who lives here, everybody who works here. They'll feel it in some way. We will generate, just because of this race, $100 million in tax revenue that will help fund schools, will help fund healthcare. There's any number of economic and fiscal benefits to having Formula One in Las Vegas, including having Lewis Hamilton, who just walked by. In addition to that, as recognized by you being here, the eyes of the world are on Las Vegas this week, and there's no better marketing for Las Vegas than to see Formula One cars going 350 kilometers an hour down Las Vegas Boulevard and cause people around the world to think, I want to go to Las Vegas too. It's marketing that we couldn't afford to buy, and it will ripple through the other 51 weeks of the year.
So that's the point, isn't it? If you want to come to Las Vegas and experience Las Vegas, this isn't really the week to do it because a lot of things are closed, the Strip is closed, you can't get your full Las Vegas feeling. So is it trying to get more people here in, as you say, the other 51 weeks, or is it trying to get bums on seats in the grandstands during F1's time here?
Well, we're always going to answer questions like that with both. The Strip is not closed. We will close the street for about 10 hours a night, but everything else is open. We will be full this weekend. We're almost full every weekend. We can hold about 330,000 people. There'll be about 125,000, 150,000 people here for Formula One, but there's plenty to do otherwise. And so we feel like we'll be, basically at full occupancy this week. But we also want to attract particularly international visitors through this race for the other 51 weeks a year. And that kind of reach that this event brings we've got a pretty big budget, but even we couldn't afford to buy that.
So that was Steve Hill, the CEO of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. So plenty more coming Las Vegas's way. Has this wet your whistle? Will you be back for the Super Bowl, Jolyon?
Maybe.
Alice?
I didn't hear what you said.
I'll say it again. Will you be back for something like the Super Bowl? Of course, big events coming to Las Vegas, as Steve Hill was just saying.
Are you going to pay for my accommodation and flights out here?
Look,
maybe.
If I have a successful night in the casino, maybe, but probably not. But they are going all in, aren't they, Vegas? They really want to be a sporting capital as well, and sort of trying to snap up all these big properties.
That's right. It's a strategy for them as well. It's not just about, well, that's about making money as well, of course, but it's about broadening out beyond entertainment, which is what this place has traditionally been known for. You know, right the way back to Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra in the 50s, right up to nowadays. They're now trying to branch out into sporting events too. So this is kind of like, again, for them, it's a kind of groundbreaking event as well.
And it has been interesting listening to the drivers, and Alice mentioned Max Verstappen saying that we're sort of here for the show. Lewis Hamilton has been quoted as saying we can't be a circus that shows up that's all glitz and glamour, affecting local people negatively. So the drivers are aware that it's a big thing rolling into town here in Las Vegas. But let's take it back to kind of why we're here, I guess, in the simplest of terms, is to race Formula One cars. This track, you mentioned it, you know, it looks like an upside-down pig. That's being technical. Now let's unpick that. In terms of overtaking, though, this is what we want to see. Are we going to see some moves being done here? DRS zones for the drivers to play with. Where are you seeing the opportunities for the drivers to make moves this weekend?
There's 3 long straights on the track. One of them is not with DRS into the first corner. It was actually pretty narrow, overlooking where we are now. But the other 2 got DRS zones, and they've got great opportunities to pass. Turn 5 and after turn 12 is the longest straight on the track. Goes through into 14. I think we'll see moves.
So we can now see the drivers. They've been introduced. Lots of fanfare. There were flags changing colours according to the different teams that the drivers are associated with, and they're now on top of these trucks, it looks like, waving to the crowd, all dressed in their racing overalls, so that everyone, I guess, knows who they are, because there's still a bit of learning to do, I guess, in the US when it comes to Formula One. But they're enjoying the crowd. The crowd are enjoying seeing the drivers. This is going to be a big weekend for them, isn't it? What a way to start it.
I mean, yeah, we've not had an opening show or anything like this, well, since I can remember. They've really put on a great show here. The crowd are enjoying it. The drivers, as I said earlier, it'd just be another piece of PR for them.
Formalities.
It would be. They just want to get out on track. But, you know, I'm excited to see the cars on track. I think, as Jolyon said, we could see a few instances in free practice. You know, who's going to come out on top? I mean, I don't want to point the obvious. Is it going to be Red Bull? We don't actually know, because, you know, it's a totally different track than what we're used to.
So just to give you an idea of some of the sort of shifting priorities at this weekend, this morning the teams were basically told it was a 3-line whip for the drivers to be at a party at the Wynn Casino at 10:30 tonight, which meant that the teams all had to rearrange all their media schedules, which sounds trivial, but the media schedules impact the engineering schedules. And so it's...
Any pushback?
I think there's some unhappy drivers having...
Which party they're going to?
The one at the Wynn Casino. Joe,
Okay.
if you fancy popping along at 10:30.
Honestly, I didn't get the invite. Real shame.
Shambles. Your postman's lost it.
So yeah, it's entertainment all the way this weekend, apart from those few hours that they're out on track.
But you know what? I know you're saying it's a formality, and the drivers, you know, smile and wave and all that sort of thing that we know that superstars, sports stars probably have to do from time to time. But this is big for them as well, because this can make or break their careers as well. If they can be big in the US, if their Formula One career gets away from them and they want to come and be an IndyCar driver or a NASCAR, you know, it's good to kind of favour all markets, is it not? Oh.
Right, okay. This is a bore for the drivers. It's great,
That's
but
mean.
I'm enjoying it. We're standing here and we're seeing a bit of a show, and it's cool. It's great for the US.
Would you be enjoying it if you were stood up there on waving?
No, that's the thing. It's one of those things, you see it in the schedule. You see it in the schedule and you're like, Really? I've got better things to be doing than spending half an hour waving to a ripple of applause in the grandstand. There was a few more cheers for other drivers, but these things, when I was racing, you're focusing on doing your job, which is the driving bit, and trying to get some points or a win or a podium. and going to a party at 10:30 the night before you're about to hit one of the hardest tracks potentially this year. It's not ideal. I'm groaning a little bit if I'm a driver.
I mean, I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if lots of drivers would have kicked off about that, but
I believe some of them did. But
they've got to go. Yeah, I mean, you would, I would, you would, we all would. Maybe not so much Rosanna. She'd quite fancy a party.
Pliable.
But yeah.
Love a party, me. Love a party. But it is, I mean, it's a couple of hours away, that party that you've mentioned, Andrew. So a bit of time to, I'm not going to say kill because they're going to be busy, whatever they're doing, but then to have to go away and do that and then go back
to give you an idea, so we're now, what time is it now? It's
just after 8 o'clock local time.
We'll finish this broadcast, they've finished the show now. 8:45 Max Verstappen does his press conference, which is separate from the FIA press conference. 9:30 the FIA press conference starts. That runs for a whole hour with 5 drivers in the first half hour, 5 drivers in the second half hour. Then all those drivers in that press conference then got to get over to the Wynn Casino for this party at 10:30 or just after. Then they've got to come back here. George Russell's media session was scheduled for 10:40 tonight. It's now at 10 past midnight. Lando Norris is speaking to the British newspapers at 10 past 1. If any of them turn up.
Benny, it's going to be a nice late night for you, isn't it, mate?
Do you know, I'll caveat my love of a party if I've had all day to get ready. If I haven't been having to do all these other things, I probably need it as well.
And the thing is, I don't want to be a party pooper, but the drivers, they're the ones that have then got to go and do the biz on the track to put on the show that could be amazing. And on this circuit, the straights are long, the downforce is low, the grip level will be very low, and if they have a lapse of concentration because they've done so many PR activities before, they're going to end up in the wall at potentially quite high speed. It's going to hurt. So it's one of those things that, you do it many Grand Prix. I remember Daniel Ricciardo said in Melbourne a few years ago he actually did too much and it cost him a bit of concentration. It's that sort of thing that impacts your schedules. You get a bit drained by the time you get to the end of the weekend. And I just think this is not the place to turn up on a Saturday
and
night.
without all of that anyway, I find that race weekends are draining anyhow, because the adrenaline that's going through, anyone that plays sport will know that that's actually draining. And they've got, 3 practice sessions, they got the qualifying and then the race. So that alone, without doing any media stuff, it's tiring. So then adding all of this in, all these extra bits that they've got to do, that's only going to add to it.
Yeah, the intensity for these guys as well, where you've got the creme de la creme here. This is the best drivers. They are looking to find a tiny little minuscule gain over their competition, and so you search every avenue to try and find that. And yeah, it's going to be really tricky for them to manage that. And the teams will work with them to try and give them a bit of rest here or there and not burn them out. But yeah, on this, I also feel standing here, everyone's going to think they've got a chance this weekend as well because of the unknowns, which is fun for all.
Someone who might not think they have a chance is Logan Sargent, but of course he's racing on home soil. So in a way, all the drivers are probably feeling like it's a home race with the level of PR activities and engagements they've all got to be doing. But Logan is the only US American driver. So let's hear from him ahead of his third and final home race in 2023. That sounded like I was announcing the end of his time in F1.
Might be yet, but we'll see.
Well, this is what Logan's been saying.
I just think the 3 races are special in their own way. I think Miami's really special because it's on my doorstep. Austin is special just because I feel like it really is one of the best crowds and energies that we experience through the year. And this one's special because it's driving under the lights in Las Vegas, right down the strip. So I feel like they all have their unique traits, but they're all amazing and always nice to drive at home.
And of course, we've only got about 10 days or so of this season left. That's 10 days to secure your future, or is it already secured? Do you know what you're doing for 2024?
I have no idea. I'm just taking it weekend by weekend. I think the last 3 weekends were good. It was 3 good, Sundays, good momentum, and I just want to carry that here. I think the biggest thing coming into this one, it's new for everyone. It's new for all the teams. It's a really good opportunity. It's a track that should suit us a little better, so we'll go out, perform as well as we can, and whatever it is, it is.
And it would be nice to announce it here, I guess, if you were going to announce an extension anywhere. Surely here rather than Abu Dhabi.
Well, it would be nice, but you're asking the wrong person. So, I don't know. I'm just here to drive best I can.
And work on that poker face. Thank you. So that's Logan Sargent, the home hero, who is still fighting to keep his seat for 2024. But let's look at the sharp end of the grid, because I'm sure as we come into this weekend, most people seeing Max Verstappen as a favourite. Can I get a show of hands?
How could you say anything else?
Well, Jolien said a lot of people will be fancying their chances here.
He's lost one race since April. I mean, let's put it in perspective.
I've been pregnant since then. It's been a long time, let me tell you. So he is the one to beat, but can anyone get in amongst it?
Obviously, he's the man to beat, but I think if you know the performance of the Red Bull at the start of the season, you know that they're way ahead. You look at the calendar, you think maybe Vegas in the cool with a new track, maybe this is the one that is going to be the hardest for him. Now, we've had difficult circumstances in like Monaco, in Zandvoort, and then Singapore. He didn't win another night race on a street circuit. But I think on paper, this is the one where he's got the most unknowns to try and win it. He'll probably still do it, but this is the one that I think everyone else will think they maybe can do it.
And I think this is going to be probably one of the most important tracks in bringing the tyres in. And if you just get that slightly wrong with it doesn't look like we're going to be getting the 4 degrees. We might get the 9-10 degrees. But if you just get that slightly wrong, and Jolien will know as well, if you don't get your tyres in the correct window when it's chilly, then that can massively affect. So if someone like Max doesn't, gets a bit of traffic and doesn't seem to get his tyres in this window, that will be even worse here because it's cold and it's slippy. The track evolution is going to be huge.
So are we talking graining? Is that what we're worrying about?
Well, look, we could very easily see Verstappen not on pole. It's long straights, slow corners. The long straights are the strength of the Red Bull. Slow corners really aren't. It's been at its weakest in that sort of corner. So maybe a Ferrari, for example, on pole, but it doesn't make any difference this year because even if he qualifies 7th, he's still going to win the race.
But okay, let me just add, if it's bumpy, it doesn't suit the Red Bull either, and that was a big downfall for Singapore, for them in Singapore. And we don't know what this track's going to be like. I can't imagine it's going to be silky smooth going down the strip. So I imagine that's going to be a little bit more of a headache for Red Bull. There's also a chance of reliability being a concern with so much full throttle time, end of a season, engines are high on mileage. Max has had unbeatable reliability this year, but that's going to be a little bit of jeopardy for everyone. And then the other thing is there's a chance the safety car is going to be through the roof here. And we know that can mix up the race very, very easily as well. So even if he's on pole, this is the sort of place where you can't guarantee that he's going to have a cruise to a win.
Well, let's hear how he's feeling. Is he going to cruise to the win here in Las Vegas?
I honestly don't know because, it's all new for everyone. Also, grip levels, we don't know how it's going to behave, how bumpy the track is. The layout, there are some slow corners, but they're also straight. So I think naturally we are not probably the best in the low speed, but we are quick on the straight. So, I don't know. I'm not really thinking about it too much. And it's more about just jumping in the car and then you just work from there.
And I know you're here for the performance, but I know you've said it's a bit of a show this weekend. Who would you like to put on a show with this weekend? You had a little bit of a...
No one.
No one? You want to be right out there, no wheel-to-wheel with anyone? Who would it be?
That's my intention. But, no one else.
No one else. We quite enjoyed the Lando battle. Who are you enjoying going wheel-to-wheel with when it does happen?
Yeah, but, I've fought 4 races and I'm also enjoying what we're doing at the moment.
The big question is whether Sergio Perez can get on terms with his teammate here in Las Vegas. Of course, seen as the king of the streets earlier this season, but it's obviously got away from him as the year has gone on. And to seal P2 in the driver's standing, Sergio Perez needs to make sure that Lewis Hamilton is nowhere near him, and Hamilton needs to outscore Perez by 7 points to take the battle to Abu Dhabi. Can he do it? Street circuit specialist. We had him king of the streets earlier this year, didn't we? Can it come back to him in this penultimate round of the season? Everyone's looking a little bit uncertain.
I think there's going to be a fly in the ointment for someone. Perez is capable of a crash this year in the way that he's going, and in tricky circumstances he could, but most likely he'll cling on to second in the championship. If he doesn't seal it this time, then it'll be in Abu Dhabi probably, because he's just got such a big advantage now. Also, Hamilton's actually closer to those behind him for third in the championship. Alonso, with his podium last time out, is put 28 points behind. And more interestingly for me, Norris is now at 31 points behind Hamilton. It's actually closer than Hamilton is to Perez, and Lewis has only scored big in one of the last 4 races. So Hamilton's got to keep himself on his toes to not actually lose the top 3 in the championship.
And let's not forget, Brazil was a really difficult race for Mercedes. It was one of their worst of the season. They just looked completely lost, basically. So they're going to be wanting to fix that this weekend and prove that they can finish the season with some reasonable strength. It's quite an interesting little pack, isn't it, that little group there? Because, I mean, you've got McLaren, as you said, you've got Mercedes in the mix, you've got Ferrari, as I mentioned. I think they're probably decent contenders for pole position. Probably you'd bet Charles Leclerc there. And you've got Aston Martin, who were nowhere for a long time, and then suddenly Fernando Alonso put in one of the drives of the season in Brazil to finish third, keep holding back Sergio Perez actually on the last lap. So out of that little mix, that's where the excitement's going to come, I think, behind Verstappen.
And with the bit of jeopardy there as well, with the gaps that they've got, they seem quite big at the moment. But if either Perez or Hamilton or an Alonso or Norris, if they hit the wall and the other guy wins or gets on the podium, suddenly there's a fight on again for Abu Dhabi. And I'd say is every chance of that happening to someone this weekend.
Yeah, I think looking at the Lewis and Perez situation, as Benny said, Mercedes really struggled last time out. They said they 100% know what the issue is, but they're not sure if they're going to continue to have or get their form back that they had a race before.
I think this is one of the problems with Mercedes, Alice, this year, isn't it? They keep saying we know what the issue is. We know why the car's slow. I heard George Russell saying in an interview the other day. Well, do they really? You know, as Hamilton's been saying all year, one weekend, even one day, it can be really good or pretty good. The next day it can be awful. Sometimes on Fridays he sounds really down and then he qualifies really well. Sometimes on Fridays he sounds really positive and then he has a terrible qualifying. You just don't know what you're going to get from them. And I don't think we're going to know the answer to whether they really know what's gone wrong with this car until the start of next season.
Well, let's hear from Lewis Hamilton's teammate George Russell. I spoke to him earlier about what they have learned from what happened last time out in Brazil.
This is the nature of a sprint race. When you make some wrong decisions, you don't have the opportunity to rectify them. And we got it wrong in Austin on Lewis's side, and the car coming in illegal, and then maybe we just took it too conservative in Brazil and truly paid the price. So I don't expect to be in the same situation this weekend. It's totally different. 3 practice sessions, but right here it's raining currently, and that's going to throw a spanner in the works for everyone. I think the fact of the matter is we're very focused on next year now. We need to secure P2 this season, but the biggest priority for us is to create a car that's capable of fighting with Max next year.
Well, let's hear from Lewis Hamilton then. He was speaking earlier on in the press conference.
Well, I was here for the pre-launch last year and got to drive on the streets here in Vegas. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I've known of this place since I was a kid watching movies. I've been here a few times, but to be here, there's only 20 of us that get to do what we do, and to be on track this weekend in Vegas, it's going to be a huge spectacle. I'm excited about it. I mean, the weather's not great, but hopefully it improves.
What are your first impressions of the circuit and the facilities here?
So last night, after I finished the event for Mercedes, we just ended up, as coming back into town, we happened to be on track, and then I managed to get to drive a little bit of the circuit. And firstly, the straights are so long. The Sphere looks incredible. All the night lights of the city are just like nowhere else in the world. The paddock area and the grandstand and the pit straight is incredible. I think they've done a really good job. So I'm excited to see how the turnout is. And already on the Wednesday, our normal Thursday, we just did the opening ceremony and so many people were there already. I think it's going to be a good weekend.
What are your expectations for the weekend ahead?
I usually don't have expectations. It's cold, so we expect it to be difficult for having the tires work. I'm expecting a better weekend than the last race. I feel like we hopefully have learned a lot from there, so hopefully we'll have a car in a much better place. And I'm expecting the best from the car. Whether that's good enough to win, we'll see.
How exciting is it to see the growth of the sport here in the US?
For me personally, it's exciting. It's a country that I've loved for a long, long time, and so many great cities here. It has a huge amount to offer, and I think the sporting community here is massive. So tapping into that, we've already seen in Austin, and we've seen a bit of it in Miami, and I'm excited to see who's coming. I mean, I know everyone and their mom's coming this weekend, so it's going to be full of celebrities. It's going to be so many people from across the States, but also I'm sure people flying in from Europe. I hope we can give them a good race. I hope it's not a boring race for them.
That was Lewis Hamilton, who I'm sure will be hoping that they got on top of the troubles they were facing in Brazil ahead of this weekend. And while we were listening to Lewis, we have repositioned ourselves down into the F1 paddock because the opening ceremony has finished. Now everybody's seen the drivers, they've seen the pomp and ceremony, and we're in the paddock, and it's a little bit damp, still raining. I know you didn't want me to mention the weather, but I'm going to, so a little bit damp here. And we're standing just beneath a sign saying, "Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada." There are so many catchphrases, aren't there, when it comes to Las Vegas? Which is your favourite and which is your worst? Or perhaps which is your worst? Andrew Benson. Seems like it's Vegas, baby, or something like you.
I'm with you. I'm like, huh?
You don't mind them? No?
I just think of The Hangover.
Yeah. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Going to the chapel,
I think things should stay in Vegas.
Oh, okay. You think
we
they
can
should?
go and get married in the paddock if anyone wants to.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we are
a chapel in the
You
paddock.
can go gambling in the paddock if you want to, Alice.
There
Did
you
know
go.
that? You
Maybe
can go-
gamble. If you
can-
lose, you got to get married.
Well, it's raining. They maybe thought about the rain because you can walk straight from the chapel to the casino or vice versa
There you
without
go.
getting wet.
Maybe getting married in the paddock is a bit of a gamble in and of itself. Palmer, have you got any ideas about heading down to the chapel in the paddock this weekend?
I'm going to steer clear of that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not for me.
It's not where you're heading. Okay,
No.
cool. No, all good to know what
the
your
money
movements
you'll
are.
save.
Yeah.
You went early, Rosanna. If this was last year,
I could have had a freebie wedding in the paddock.
we'd have all been there.
Could you imagine? That would have been fabulous.
See,
Everyone would have loved it.
patience is key.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. Virtue is a grace. What?
Are people actually going to get married in the paddock?
Apparently they've got some bookings and they're expecting walk-ins. I mean,
who's
going to go figure?
Do you need a paddock pass to walk
Yes.
in?
Yes, you do.
So what?
Yeah.
Someone they're expecting people.
Yeah, people.
Either in the teams or the media
Well,
to suddenly
presumably
think,
the corporate guests who've paid millions of dollars to get to stand above our heads right now, Jolien. Some of them will have paddock passes, so some of them might get married, I guess.
Should we attempt
good
to
luck
go
to
and see?
Good luck to him.
Who wants to risk and
I
who
tell you
wants
what,
to
if
marry?
I had the sort of money that was, sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there. If I had the sort of money to pay to get into those corporate boxes upstairs, I think I'd want something a bit more than a slightly wobbly chapel in a Formula One paddock to get married in.
Also, it's a see-through tent. I think when we walked past it earlier, see-through. So whoever goes in, they're going to be seen. There's no escaping.
I think if you go into the F1 paddock to get married, I think you want to be seen.
We've seen
I think
quite a lot of
if you went into
engagements.
a closed small ceremony, I think you've come to the wrong place.
You want to be seen.
I think I'd be if I've spent $1 million and I'm in here and I'm going to do my life's work, going to get married, and no one's around, and I'm thinking this is a washout.
Doing his life's work. I love that.
We'll come.
Because you want Lewis Hamilton to walk past outside,
Till
aren't
death
you?
do us part, Rosanna.
I know, I thought your work here on 5 Live was your life's work. Well, as we look down the paddock, all the teams' logos are lit up. We were expecting a little bit more I wanted some fountains, I wanted some lights, a bit more kind of Vegas-y in the
Well,
paddock.
do you know they've turned off the famous Bellagio fountains this weekend, which I found slightly odd. Apparently they're going to go on again after the race as part of some big ceremony. But for the actual race itself, the iconic light show at the Bellagio is not happening.
Another ceremony. So we've had an opening ceremony, we're going to have a wedding ceremony,
Oh,
we're
big
going to
time,
have a
The
closing
drivers
ceremony.
are being taken over to the Bellagio for after the race, top 3.
Jolien Palmer's eyes are
Probably just
popping out of his
broken
head.
their exclusive
One of
there,
them's going to
haven't
get married. Now, that would be a coup.
Well, there was a thing about who would get. There was some social thing, wasn't there? F1 did about which driver was most likely to get married. It seemed that Pierre Gasly was the popular choice
Yeah.
among most of the drivers.
And also talking about lights, the big sphere that we can't see from the paddock at the moment, but that we've seen whilst walking around, they're not allowed to show
Blue, red, and yellow. on it.
lights because they could distract the drivers, or they could see a light panel and it might have the reflection of the sphere, and they might think that it's a red flag or a yellow flag.
Is the scene set? Chaotic race. Loads of drivers run into trouble. Gasly wins, goes to Bellagio, has an epic party, loses his mind, gets married, bam. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Done.
Jolien Palmer, you could not make it up, quite literally. Well, I'm quite excited now. I'm feeling like we've been kind of zhuzhed up, ready for the weekend ahead.
Because we've been talking about marriage.
If that scenario happens, then we are very much here for the show, and it'll be a
some
great
money on
show.
it.
Well, you're the man winning on the roulette wheel, so maybe you're right.
So maybe I know a thing or two around here.
Well, that would be a first.
Well, on that note,
That would be a first. Well, it is getting late and we are starting to talk drivel, hypothesising about what may or may not happen this weekend. We hope it will be a fantastic Las Vegas Grand Prix. We'll have live commentary across the weekend. Hopefully you'll join us for the race start. It gets underway at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Up next is the news.